with us, that ballot, I believe. Amen. Did I say it correctly? Amen. God bless you, ma'am. I'm so glad to have you. Amen. Thank God for allowing you to be with us this morning. Turn with us briefly to the book of St. Matthew. The book of St. Matthew, chapter 14. And this morning we read, I believe, verses 22 through 32. I believe, 21 through 32. I'm not going to read all of those. However, I will refer to them as we proceed. But I want to speak to you today from St. Matthew chapter 14. Women have it, please respond with the words of amen.
Amen.
Amen. God bless you. I want to begin reading at verse number 28. Verse number 28. Matthew chapter 14, verse number 28. And it reads like this. This is the King James Version, and it says, "And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me to come unto thee on the water." Verse 29, and he said, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Verse 30, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. Amen. I want to speak to you today from these verses, focus on these verses. And I want you to look at verse 30 that says, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? Amen. We honor the Lord for his word, and we thank him, and we give him praise. I want to share with you this morning, and just look at somebody and say to them, stay focused.
Stay focused.
Share with them again and say, stay focused.
Stay focused.
I said to you on Tuesday night that I would share with you from this subject today about focus. And I don't know, sometime last week, the week before, I don't really know exactly when it was, but this thought dropped in my heart, and I kept pondering it. And as I have gone through this week, last week, and since I've had this thought, for some reason I have noticed that the enemy comes to take us off focus.
Amen.
Now, most of us are familiar with this word focus. If I were to ask, what do you think about when you hear focus? What are some things that come to your mind? Focus. What are some things that come to your mind? Focus.
Clear vision.
Clear vision. Being able to see. Clear vision. Anything else come to mind? Focus. Focus. We all focus. Say again. Alert. Amen. Clear vision. Alertness. Focus. Anything else? Attentiveness. Excellent. Amen. Clear vision. Alertness. Attentiveness. Excellent. 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 Anyone else want to share before we move on? Focus comes to mind. Yes. Keeping our mind on Christ. Amen. Amen. Focus. Alertness. Clear vision. Attentiveness. I'm sorry?
I said not distracted.
Not distracted. Focus. Not distracted. And all of those are good synonyms for focus, excellent synonyms for focus. Amen. And that's really the crux of what I want to share with you today. I want us to be alert, want us to have a clear vision, attentive, not distracted. Want us, all of the things that you share, our minds and hearts stay on Christ. All those things are, and they are important for us, especially in this day and age.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but perhaps some of you have. There's a commercial that comes on TV advertising some kind of insurance, auto insurance actually. And I don't know the name of the company. But there's a guy, and he personifies all kinds of distractions and mayhem. And sometimes he is a driver, and he distracts, and they're driving another car and looks over to see the next driver. They're running into something, they're crashing into something. And then he's running down the street, and he says, I'm a hot babe, and he has a pink headband on. He's running down the street, and this guy's driving the car, and all of a sudden the guy crashes into a tree, and then he comes on and he says, I am something else, and distracts another driver, and that driver has an accident. And what he is saying, what that shows us is that when we lose our focus, when we are distracted from something, from what our minds and our hearts should be on, then anything can happen. Or we are going to crash, if you allow me. We are going to crash. Something is going to go wrong. Something is going to go wrong. And we're living in a time when there are lots of distractions. There are a lot of distractions. A lot of distractions. There are distractions every day. There are distractions on our job. Uncertainty is a distraction. There are distractions in our home. Sometimes there are family issues that distract us. There are things that go on in our personal lives that distract us. They take our focus away from what it ought to be. There are things, amen, that economic situations. We are in one of the worst economic situations of modern history. And a lot of times these economic conditions distract us. I have not watched the news like I typically watch news. I love watching news because I like to know what's going on. But the news can serve for me, people like me, as a distraction. Okay. And it can take my mind off, and it can get me all worked up, especially during political seasons. I get all into that stuff, and those things can be distractions for me. So I find myself having to refocus. Amen. All right, having to refocus. Now, some of you all are too young to remember this, but then some of you will remember this. Years ago, television wasn't like it is now. Now, it's kind of like focuses itself automatically somehow, But years ago, you had to focus the television set. You had what we call rabbit ears that would sit on top of the set. Some of you all know what I'm talking about. And you had to move those rabbit ears around to get the right reception so that you can get a picture. And then sometimes when you got the picture was not always clear. So they had the channel knob, but around the channel knob there's a bigger knob, and you turn that knob to the left or to the right until the lines that were in there, the snow and all the distortion of that picture, and you can try to get as clear a picture as you possibly can. Right. And what we were doing back then is we were trying to focus so that we can get a clear picture. We can see the picture clearly. We didn't want one person to be 5 people on the screen. And that's really what it was sometimes. Sometimes you have a whole bunch of people on the screen. It was only one person, but they were so out of focus until almost like you were seeing double and triple sometimes. But we had to focus that. What am I saying? It takes effort. There's something that we have to do to bring things back into focus. Are y'all with me? There are things that we have to do to bring things back into focus. Now, I know nowadays you got that HMDI or HIMD, something on that fancy stuff on TV where you get this clear picture. You know, some of y'all know